What is infinite intelligence? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. What is infinite intelligence? Infinite intelligence is everything. I mean that literally. Infinite intelligence is everything. It's every piece of energy in existence. And it's in motion, and we're living in it. So, what is it? So, in my previous videos, I talk about intelligence being applied awareness. Now, in this context of infinite intelligence being everything, we'll go back to the beginning of creation. So, at that moment, the moment before life shows up, there's nothing. That's what we're working with here. And then life shows up and it expands, and we're in it. And everything in life is made from that initial pool of energy. And life is the process of all of that energy interacting with itself, becoming aware of itself, interacting with itself, and then making stuff happen. So reality is applying its awareness within itself. The entire subset of energy is life, and it's all learning to interact with itself. And in that process, it's evolving, it's growing synergy, it's giving meaning, it's giving value, it's teaching itself how to learn about itself. There's all these different, arguably, that's what all lives are about. All lives are about coming in and participating in co-creation and learning about life itself, learning about the infinite intelligence, knowing that you are the infinite intelligence, knowing that that's where you're born from and that you never leave it, and that life is a process of every piece of energy gaining sentience, and doing so by relating to all the other pieces of energy that came from the beginning. And in that process, gaining autonomy, gaining independence, gaining awareness, gaining consciousness, activating free will, and in the process, participating with the infinite intelligence in order to create this thing we call life itself. So, what are some of the practical applications of that concept, right? Infinite intelligence, I'm a piece of it, you're a piece of it, everything's a piece of it. There's nothing that's not a piece of it, right? And I know people immediately would think, oh, what about all the evil and dark stuff? Well, if you go down that path long enough with this concept in mind, then you'll see that like there's an entropy to immoral decision making. And even if you extend the timeline of immoral decision making out to nearly infinity, at some point moral choices create friction and entropy, and they drain you, and they collapse onto themselves because there's just not enough energy to keep going, because those people are not they're participating in infinite intelligence, but they're denying it, and they're trying to exploit it and drain the energy they need at a distance. And that all comes out in immoral choices and terrible ethics. But eventually it's entropic. It becomes necrotic. It becomes avoiding death instead of living life. And even in those moments, they are engaging in the infinite intelligence because they're the little black dot in the middle of the white on the yin yang. Now, some of them are doing it in an aware manner, and many of them are doing it in an unaware manner, conscious or unconscious. It doesn't really matter. Because at a certain moment, when the entropy runs out, they get reintroduced to the light concept. And when they have exhausted the folly, well, yeah, the folly of all the immoral decision making and bad ethics, and the entropy runs out, and they're no longer engaged in the ascension into higher realms with more information and more fulfillment and better conditions, and they're left with themselves and their own empty, barren decision making, then they come back, then they get reintroduced to the light, and those are the lessons of the dark. So in that way, even if they're going down dark paths, they're still serving the function of the infinite intelligence. Now, even some of them get to a point where they use that as the rationalization for their immorality and bad ethics. But there's no excuse for bad behavior. Just because you're doing bad behavior, it's not an excuse. It doesn't relieve the immorality of the situation. In fact, it amplifies it, because now when you've just demonstrated to the infinite intelligence that you're conscious of yourself, things get amplified. Whether it's you're conscious of doing good or you're conscious of doing bad, it gets amplified by the infinite intelligence. So at that point, you realize there's no escape from it, because you are it. And there are certain essentially laws of physics that deal with the propagation of the momentum of the energy of the choices. So when we bring it back to that, you go, okay, well, so if we're infinite intelligence, what are some of the benefits, right? Philosophically, what are the benefits of knowing that? Well, it's that in the particularly very specific to the human condition, when we become conscious and integrated and individuated, initiated, anointed, appointed, all that good stuff, and you're activated, then a human can interact with all the information in the reality around us at any given time, like we're walking around in the universe's best internet. And that anything we connect to, any relationships we develop, anything we focus into, will immediately give us infinite information that's right on point for what we need. Because in this philosophical area, like, let's assume, with no proof, just that our auric field, our aura field, which is a sphere 33 feet in diameter when it's activated, and we're going around in the universe. Let's assume that that's like our Wi-Fi antenna, and the reality itself is this sort of VR, and that our bubble, for starters, it needs to be activated and working for us to even engage in the reality. And once it is, it's taking in so much information, because that's the context of our life. The auric field, the emotional auric field, that is the context of our life that we're in. And so the information that comes into it is coming into us through the context of our field. Of that incorporates everything. All of our soul, our consciousness, our current life is all in the context of that electromagnetic field. And the information that comes in when we plug into infinite intelligence is bespoke to that. And then the infinite intelligence, when we've made conscious connection with it, can start to sequence what we would call our life. The Buddhists would call it getting into the flow, the stream of life, whatever you want to call it, things going my way. And then we enter the stream of the infinite intelligence, which is as good a way to describe life, or the ether, or whatever you want to call it, as you can. This is infinite intelligence, because we are in a moving, conscious entity. We say life like it's this thing that it's like dead or something. It's not. It's literally the opposite of that. It's literally life. And it is, everything in it is moving and growing and expanding and evolving or contracting, but it's all moving. It's all waves. It's alive. There's nothing inanimate in it. Those are just frequency differences of perception to see whether things are animate or inanimate. So that means that we're inside the infinite intelligence. We're part of it and we're inside of it. And it's always going like that. So when knowing that, walking around in it, broadcasting that in the energetic field, it's responding. And that ends up being the proof in and of itself. It's a proof that every person has to do for themselves. When you know that you're inside the infinite intelligence and that you've activated yourself and that you're aware of it, and then you communicate to it that I am now open to receiving proof that this infinite intelligence is in fact infinite intelligence, then it will start to happen. That does happen. And that's been recorded hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of billions of people throughout history. Whether their outcomes are good or bad, they come back and they say, yeah, life is interactive. It responds to my vibe. It responds to what I'm doing. It's infinite intelligence. Because everything in here is alive and has sentience to some degree. And we combine that with quantum mechanics, where if you pay attention to something, it animates it, collapses it from a wave to a particle. And you know that we're in this reality that we're in is the collapsed particle reality, where things are playing out because of consciousness having put the spotlight on things. And you can spend your whole life trying to backtrack why certain things are in motion and like who brought them to life or whatever. But just in general philosophical terms, all the things that we see existing are because some intelligence put its consciousness on it to some degree and set it in motion. And just know that we are also that, and that we have the ability to interact with it and make things happen. It makes things a lot of fun. So infinite intelligence, what is it? It's life. It's the applied awareness of creation itself, interacting with itself, and all of the manifestations that are within creation are the infinite intelligence. It is life, and it's what we're all experiencing and what we're interacting with. And the more conscious we become with it, the more bespoke the manifestations and interactions are. Well, I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for spending some time at Philosopher's Corner. Have a good day and have fun.